Hello! In this presentation of Nature Time, we will travel back in time to meet pterosaurs. They lived during most of the Mesozoic era. More specifically, from the late Triassic to the end of the Cretaceous 228 to 66 million years ago. Their name comes from the Greek words pteron, which means wing, and savra, which means lizard. And it apparently indicates that they are flying reptiles. Pterosaurs are often referred to by the mass media or the general public as flying dinosaurs, but this is wrong, since as dinosaurs are defined the descendants of the last common ancestor of Saurischia and Ornithischia, which excludes pterosaurs. Of course, pterosaurs are more closely related to birds and dinosaurs than to crocodiles or any other up-to-date living reptile. They were the first vertebrates we know that flew and didn't just hover. The wings of the pterosaurs were formed by bones and membranes of skin and other tissues, stretching from the ankles to a dramatically lengthened fourth finger. There were two major types of pterosaurs, basal pterosaurs and later pterosaurs. The basal pterosaurs are also called non-pterodactyloid pterosaurs or rhamphorhynchoids. Their typical representatives were Dimorphodon, Eutimorphodon, Rhamphorhynchus, Scaphognathus. They were smaller animals with fully serrated jaws and typically long tails. Their broad wing membranes probably enclosed and connected the back limbs. It is believed that they had an awkward posture on the ground, with relatively difficulty in walking. On the contrary, the anatomy of their joints and their strong claws would have made them efficient climbers, and they may have lived on trees. Let's move on to the later pterosaurs that are also called pterodactyloids. Their typical representatives were Germanodactyles, Istiodactyles, Pteranodon, and Pterodactyles. They had a wide variety in sizes, shapes, and lifestyle. Pterodactyloids had narrower wings with free back limbs, greatly reduced tails, and long necks with large heads. On the ground they walked at ease, using all four limbs while standing upright on the back too. They could take off from the ground. Some even had comfort in floating on the sea, but also diving into it to catch their food. Generally now, all pterosaurs are found to have quite large skulls compared to other flying vertebrates, such as birds and bats. Also, their jaws had horny beaks and in some of them no teeth at all. But others, like Pterodostro, had over 1,000 teeth, thin as hair. All pterosaurs had their skin covered in hair-like filaments to insulate their bodies. Also, their bones were hollow and filled with air like those of birds, while the bone walls were often as thin as a sheet of paper. Pterosaurs ranged in sizes, from the very small Anurognathids, which are thought to have had a wingspan of only 25 centimeters, to the huge Coatzacoatlus, weighing close to 250 kilos and having a wingspan of up to 11 meters. They had rich eating habits, making them so pescatarians, as well as insectivorous, frugivorous, but also hunters of terrestrial animals and even other pterosaurs. Their reproduction was done by eggs, some fossils of which have been discovered. It is worth emphasizing at this point that pterosaur fossils are very rare due to their light bone structure. Complete skeletons can generally only be found in geological strata with exceptional preservation conditions, so-called Lagerstätten. In 1784, Italian naturalist Cosimo Alessandro Collini was the first scientist in history to describe a pterosaur fossil. At that time, the concepts of evolution and extinction were poorly developed. So the strange construction of the pterosaur was therefore shocking to the scientists of the time, as it could not be clearly assigned to any existing group of animals. The discovery of pterosaurs would thus play an important role in the advancement of modern paleontology and zoology. In 18,000, Johann Hermann first suggested that it represents a flying creature in a letter to Georges Cuvier. Cuvier in 1801 agreed, understanding that it was an extinct flying reptile. We believe that you found the information about pterosaurs very interesting. So we invite you to meet the other types of pterosaurs presented by our channel Nature Time. If you liked our presentation, please click on subscribe and like.